right, guys. So here talking again a little bit about the Cuba situation and my opinion regarding how a big percentage of the left of the Democrats in the US, just for the sake of going against Donald Trump, they're doing everything possible. That way the regime can last another 100 years. And I know sometimes people are like, oh no, but it's not always the left. Is every single action, which I'm going to show you here. The Democrats have been trying to block the powers for Trump. That way he doesn't do anything in Cuba. They have been visiting Cuba. They have been taking pictures. So they have been pretty much massaging and playing nice to a dictatorship that has been there for over 6 decades. And then people are like, why do Cubans tend to vote for Republicans? I think people forget. I can understand the libertarian position that JFK had back then, but one of the reasons a dictatorship is still there in Cuba is because JFK refused to help the invasion in Cuba. Again, we can agree to disagree, but that's one of the reasons. And one of the other reasons is every position that the left has been taking, from Biden, from Obama, to even right now when Democrats don't have power to try to do anything to the current situation over there in Cuba, it's just helping any dictatorship out there. The same with Venezuela. How can you not realize the people of Venezuela were happy with the capture of Maduro? Again, it's not a perfect process. Nobody's saying that, hey, boom, everything is going to be fixed overnight. No. There have been dictatorships that have been going on for many years, and there's a process. Those things take time. And I am pretty sure if neither Rubio or Vance get elected in 2028, they're going to butcher the whole thing. That's why I'm hoping this situation of Cuba can get done hopefully this year. Or at least if it doesn't lose the Senate, that would be good enough because they don't have the votes to actually remove the war powers. Iran might be a different situation. But Cuba, again, and some people will say, but George, you say you're libertarian. How are you pro the US getting involved in certain situations? I think if you look throughout history, every dictatorship that has been toppled, they needed the help from particular countries at a particular point. People don't want to acknowledge part of the liberation of the US is not because just of the bravery or how great George Washington was. The French had interest against UK. And that's how geopolitics works. Geopolitics, sometimes you have to be opportunistic. And I think that's what the Iran thing happened before the Cuba situation, is because they thought it was an opportunity. They could be right, they could be wrong, but I think the situation in Cuba is more delicate. And what bothers every fucking Cuban is whenever they hear, oh, the blockade, which again, repeating communist propaganda. You cannot say you support the people in Cuba and then repeat the talking points from the dictatorship. I don't know if I made this reference before, but again, it's like you saying you're for the victim of domestic violence and then you're repeating what the abuser is saying. You cannot do those two things at the same time. You're contradicting yourself. And again, since the left has no strong position against just hating Trump, that is the strongest position that they truly have, they just dumping on the Cuban people. And people are going to say, yeah, but isn't Trump right now what's going on with the oil situation putting more pressure? Again, what I just mentioned a few seconds ago, it's opportunistic. I think that Cuba right now, it's alone. It's in a vulnerable position. China cannot project power past their borders, around 300 miles away from their coast. Russia is involved with Ukraine. Venezuela is no longer there. You don't want an adversary such as Cuba or people that are going to allow China or Russia be 90 miles away from you, from Cuba. And also, Cuba could be a huge partner to the US. And I'm hoping soon something does happen. And that's why I'm dying for the whole situation with Iran to kind of work itself out. That way they can get rid of those people. Again, I don't care how. I'm telling you, if they do what happened to Maduro, or they fly a B-2 bomber over the place where the Acané stays, I'll be celebrating that. I got the U.S. flag and the Cuban flag ready to celebrate, because I know, I'm hoping, again, another Republican does something about it. Because, again, the left, I would say similar how they do to black people. Lots of talk. They're going to do a lot of talk. They're going to play victim, but they're never going to do anything for you. Same with Cubans. That's why Obama, before leaving, one of the last things he did was remove Pie Seco Bien Mojado, which was, I believe, an executive order that was actually helping Cuba. He realized that Cubans don't vote for leftist. And that's why he didn't like it. And that's why Cubans are, even in the future, are going to continue to vote for a Republican. I'm hoping, also Venezuelans here in the States are also voting for whoever the future Republican is. Because at least they have to be thankful. At least they can see light at the end of the tunnel. Right now, Cuba, it's in a really, really, really bad situation. Really, really bad situation. The family that I have there, they're cooking with wood. Again, just send them money. They can barely find stuff because there's nothing there. Again, this is before the blockade, guys. This is before the whole thing that people, again, and people have to differentiate a blockade versus an embargo. When you steal stuff, there has to be consequences for stealing. Cuba robbed and many things from U.S. companies. So there has to be a consequence for when that happens. So, and a blockade is what's going on probably when Iran. You're not allowed to go through. That's what a blockade. That way you guys see the difference. And start repeating talking points. And actually do something that supports and helps the Cuban people. Not just go hate everything that Donald Trump does. I think look through the other side. If you care, if some of your leftists that the three cats are going to watch this video, that actually support the people, be reasonable. Be reasonable and think, what does the Cuban people want? Not what ignore your hatred towards Donald Trump. It's not about that. It's not about you. The same about the Venezuela situation. It's not about you. It's about the people that need to change, and they're in an opportunity where something good can happen. And I'm hoping something does happen soon.